Welcome back to the Saints Squad Show. I'm your host, Dylan Sennett of Saints Wire. And after today, the next time you'll see me is after the Saints play a football game.
John Hendricks, New Orleans football. And I just want to tell you good luck. We're all counting on you.
Oh, it's my turn. This is former Saints wide receiver Lance Moore. And we're missing somebody because I wasn't ready.
It's the Saints Squad, sponsored by Gametime. Everything New Orleans Saints, every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from down in the Big Easy, the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Saints Squad Show, starting now.
Howdy, Houdat Nation, and welcome back to the Saints Squad Show. I'm Rosal, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every Monday and Thursday. We have a unique group of experts here ready to bring you a fun and informative show on everything New Orleans Saints. Today, not to shock you, we're going to be diving into Saints training camp and what's been happening and what will happen in the preseason game, or at least what we want to happen, stuff like that. But first, to address it, yes, Ross is not here yet. He is, we chose this new time to do it after Saints training camp, but of course, Saints then had to go to California and mess up all the timing. So Ross was there. He's doing media. He's doing post stuff. He'll be here at some point to give us like an immediate reaction, a quick update on everything that happened today. Which is fun because, they couldn't film it today. We didn't get to see it with our own eyes. Ross will be our eyes and ears on Saints training camp at some point. But until then,
Look, more hair. That's what Lance was shocked at. There's more hair on this podcast than normal. So
yeah, there's a higher hair percentage.
Less head, more hair.
I'm rocking. Let's go on to Saints training camp. Let's start. It's been 2 weeks, guys. It's been 2 weeks. And, while it is still very early on, you can start to get a little bit of a feel on the team, the temperature, the mood. We're getting more and more information each day. And we're going to start off positive because, we got to be positive. We're going to go through each of us something on the team that we feel has our mood on has improved upon the most since the start of training camp. And let's start with Lance. How are you doing today? And what do you feel better about on the team than you did 2 weeks ago?
Well, first, to address the elephant in the room, I was joking. That was a planned thing in the beginning. I didn't forget that it was my turn. I obviously knew who was going to be on the show.
It was a Key and Peele skit.
There you go. I'm working on my acting. You never know when I can get called back in. You can get the call up.
I believed it. I believed it.
Hey, well, I aim to please. But as far as like the group or position that I'm pleased about is the secondary. Honestly,
yeah.
Like I think there was so many question marks about new corners, about like Tyron is retiring. What are we gonna do? I think that first and foremost, Kool-Aid McKinstry, from all reports and emotions from people coming from practice, have said that he's been awesome. Like he's been amazing the entire training camp. He's been competitive. He's been making plays. He's been physical. And he's been chirping, which from a receiver perspective, a chirpy DB is kind of annoying, right? Like it just gives you something else to think about when you're out there. Now, I do think that we need to figure out that third cornerback spot. But as far as what we've seen from Kool-Aid, what we've seen from Alontae Taylor, what we've seen from Justin Reed, Jordan Howden, Julian Blackman, I mean, like these guys are showing that we're going to be all right in the back end. I don't know yet that I'm ready to say that we're going to be great in the back end, but I do believe that with the group that we have, we can be really, really successful. Obviously, it's a different defense, so we don't necessarily have to have that one-on-one shutdown corner that Marshawn Lattimore was for a very long time on this defense. having guys that are super athletic and physical that can play with their eyes more so in the backfield and come up and make plays in front of them. I mean, I feel like we have guys that are built for that. So the secondary is definitely the group for me, because I thought about saying corner alone, but I felt like I wouldn't be doing that group justice if I just said corner, because I do feel like the safeties have really rounded out that entire group, and I think they're gonna be really, really good this year.
Julian Blackmon. Go ahead. I was gonna say Julian Blackmon on the unofficial depth chart is already a starter with Justin Reed. So I mean that's good sign. Like I think some of us were worried about him getting off to a slower start, but man, he's come in here and been a breath of fresh air for a team that lost Tyron. I mean that's a tough one to replace, but Justin Reed's keeping that energy. I like what I've seen from Alontae Taylor, Kool-Aid McKinstry, and Quincy Riley too. I mean, this is I don't want to say it's a great secondary because they hadn't played a game and they haven't stacked up against receivers or anything like that. But I feel I'm with you. I feel a lot better about the secondary than I probably did coming in.
Yeah, and I think that overall, I would agree. It's been a lot of fun. I think Quincy Riley is someone that's fun. Watching the college tape, you were like, man, this guy's a ball hawk. All he does is look at the ball, and it's look for the ball. And he does other things too, but he's a ball hawk. And it was good to see him come into the NFL and keep that trait, because every time in practice, no matter what, he was trying to get his hands on the balls. He's trying to find it, break up a pass, come down with an interception. It was a lot of fun to see and promising to see, because while I do think they feel good about where Isaac Yiadom is right now, there's very much room for in the season Quincy Riley to take over that starting position if he doesn't do it in the next couple of weeks. And I'm really, really happy about the safety group, because Justin Reed, he seems a perfect fit for that Tyrann Mathieu role. And Julian Blackmon, I'm sure y'all saw this with someone that's Brandon Staley really, really wanted 5 years ago out of the draft. And so he was able to get him, and he's not wasted time putting him to use. And I think he fits this defense really well. And he fits the room very well. I think the overall vibe of the secondary is really positive. And that's one of those position groups where communication and everything, and even off the field relationship can improve. I was kind of confused back at LSU. They had the safeties and cornerbacks like completely separated, like during practice and after games and like in their teams. And I just felt like that was a bit of a mistake, because one mess up in one level of the secondary can completely mess up the other one.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the evolution of coaching, right? So like back in the day, it was like, okay, we have a secondary coach. He's going to coach corners, safeties, slot corners, and the likes. And now everything is becoming more and more specialized. I definitely don't understand them always being apart, but I do understand, I guess, the importance of somebody that can come in and teach the specific techniques to each guy, because the corners and safeties have different jobs. While they have to understand what the others are doing, I do feel like I understand why they would have a separate coach. I don't understand why they would spend so much time apart. And like you said, like one guy making a mistake makes it tougher on all the other guys that are out there that are supposed to be pulling all in the same direction.
Yeah. And Alontae said it too. I mean, he talked about how important the safeties are to that position, just like Justin Reed, particularly, or whoever's playing safety, pointing out coverages and putting like they're kind of really responsible for getting guys lined up in the right position stuff. So, I mean, again, I think that's pretty interesting. It's in itself. And look, I mean, the league has changed. Like it has, but it hasn't, you know what I mean? And so, I mean, there are a lot of different ways to attack defenses now, again, I think it's more run heavy in some aspects, but people dicing them, and the Saints are no stranger to getting carved up in that intermediate to short field. And so we know the pass rush has to be better in a lot of things, but I do think the secondary, at least, from what it seems like, building some nice camaraderie. I love Justin Reed stepping up to be a leader. That's something we've talked about on past episodes. And look, I feel pretty good about depth, like Jonas Sanker. I feel like he's somebody that I think is going to take a good leap here in his rookie season. So I'm excited to see, not to jump ahead in another segment, but he's one of the many I'm excited to see play on Sunday against the Chargers.
And
Yeah.
JT Gray back at practice today, which is
Yes,
that's
a big one.
Great news. Great
Yes.
news.
Great news. All right, John, what do you feel good about? What group do you feel good about in this team?
Yeah, I was tempted to say the defense, but I can't because I don't want to eat the cheese on the defensive line yet because they still got to prove that they can get after the quarterback and sack. I'm going to go with the offensive line, and specifically, I want to talk about Trevor Penning. I feel much better about Trevor Penning right now at left guard than I did 2 weeks ago. I just feel like for him, everything that we've read, everything that we've seen, this guy feels comfortable. He feels like he's putting it all together. And that is a huge thing for the Saints team to get somebody like him comfortable in this offense. And so I think it's not by coincidence. Brendan Nugent, hell of a coach. TJ Paganetti, obviously he did a great job with the Eagles and such. And so I feel like that is a perfect marriage, that they've got somebody that's teaching him things the right way. He's learning on the field. He's very positive. He's very confident. And that's the best news you could get for that offensive line. Like Kelvin Banks is going to be just fine as a rookie. I feel like that. Taliesin Fuanga, just fine. They need Eric McCoy to be there for all 17 games. We know how valuable he is. And it's really like Cesar Ruiz is coming off of a down year, right? And he's somebody that I feel like can play up, especially if McCoy's in the mix. And so Trevor Penning's kind of the mystery. But even going beyond that, I feel good about the depth. I love Will Clapp there. I think Dylan Radins, I've talked about it on past shows, that there's depth is better than it was a year ago. And so it makes me feel good too, because again, I don't want to see any of those go down. But at the same time, I feel like this offensive line in a lot of ways is going to be this team's bread and butter. And if they can get them firing on all cylinders, it's going to make whoever plays quarterback their job a lot easier. And I mean, look, this is potentially really good news for if they can hit on this offensive line. I'm not saying they're going to get to the Lions level or anything like that, but it's a start. And you got some young pieces there. And of course, Penning's in a contract year that presents a whole new ball of wax. But you know, you could have this line play together for a couple of years if everything goes the way it should.
Yeah. I'll add to that group Kelvin Banks because, you know, he has been a factor in run blocking so far. It's really fun. You know, there's so much to watch during practice, and it was my first time at camp. As a scrimmage, my eyes were going everywhere, but it was always fun to, like, if you lock it on Kelvin Banks, he's putting someone in the ground, and that's always fun to see. For mine, I'm gonna go. I don't know. There's been a couple spots I want to do. I could go with a cop-out answer with Kellen Moore. We've talked a lot about Kellen Moore. I think he's won over a large part of the fan base over the past 2 weeks. Defensive line was another one, but I agree they haven't done as much as a group. There's been individual players. I'll stick with linebacker because, you know, that's a position group that the Saints struggled a bit last year. I you know, there's still DeMario and Pete and, you know, the injury history, the age concerns. But I think what I really feel better about is the depth behind them. I think Nephi Sewell has been incredible this year, this training camp, and I think that Danny Stutzman has done everything that a rookie could do to prove that he belongs on the field during training. He's a heat-seeking missile. He's wearing the crop top with the neck pad. He's doing it all on and off the field. That I think it's hard not to feel a little bit better with the more question marks than normal on the starting room to have two guys that, you know, I think I would feel comfortable seeing them come into the game as opposed to being like, we're going to the backups. Because there are definitely spots on the team that if they get past the first injury or whatever, it's like, whoa, that entire room crumbles. I just don't think that the linebacker is that for the Saints this year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that, you know, you talk about also even DeMarco Jackson having a really strong camp, and Jalen Ford. I mean, I know people hadn't really talked about him much, but he's somebody that I think is somebody that's really going to need to watch over the next couple of days and here. And same thing with Isaiah Stallbird. I mean, this is guys that, again, maybe not necessarily household names, but DeMarco Jackson's been on this team for a while, and he's bread and butter is special teams. But I'm with you, Dylan. Nephi Sewell's play is really encouraging. And I know Lance has talked about it that, you know, if he doesn't necessarily outplay Pete, that might be an interesting thing if Pete does struggle at some point, you know. But I mean, I want Pete Werner to play exceptionally well there. Don't get me wrong. But, you know, Lance has been around this game. He knows that some people just don't cut the mustard. they get replaced, and sometimes that's all it takes. But Nephi is a good breath of fresh air, and so is Danny Stutzman, man. I mean, this guy, everyone you talk to, I mean, just a football player. And I get it. That sounds like an oxymoron, but like, dude loves this game. He loves to play. And I think he's just got this chip on his shoulder that for the Saints to be the only team that worked him out is ludicrous. And like, they just really found, I know we talk about a lot of their misses, but this could be a big hit, especially going into the future when, you know, future DeMario is uncertain after this year. And I mean, I hate to see him go and hang it up because I think he probably could play to past 40 if he wanted to, and it was still effective because he takes care of himself. But they got something at least building to the future. And I think that's what I like about a lot of the positions on this roster is the rebuild plan. You can kind of see it take shape a little bit. Not that they've got all the pieces, but moving in the right direction in a lot of spots.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, well, let's stop being positive. No more positivity for at least 15 more minutes, because coming up next, we're going to get into what we feel worse about for 2 weeks. And I can't speak for the others, but I think mine is a pretty important position.
I wonder.
Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or even some preseason football action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. If you think I haven't been eyeing these preseason bets, then you've got another thing coming, bud. I'm one of those guys. Maybe you're feeling good about how the Saints have done so far. Right now, they're at plus 1,300 to win the NFC South. It's not a good sign. But if you're already following the action, why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets. If your first bet wins, open the FanDuel app or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, let's go with what's getting worse over the past after the past 2 weeks. You know, maybe not their play, but something you just don't feel as good about, a little uneasy. And I'll start us off because I feel like it's what we could go over a little bit. Me personally, I think it's got to be quarterback because, you know, I didn't feel great about having, you know, Tyler Shrug. I didn't think that they were going to come in and light the league on fire. But it's been 2 weeks and no one's really done anything to really be like, hey, I'm going to be the starter. Spencer Rattler's had more good practices, but I think more good practices isn't what you want at this point. I want a starting quarterback to have appeared, and that's just not what's happened. And Tyler Shuck, even though he's had also some great moments, every positive comes with like 2 steps back, or every positive comes with a negative. It's just been a little wishy-washy. And so that's where I'm going to start us off with quarterback. I feel worse about quarterback than I did 2 weeks ago.
I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, everybody wants to see how they play in preseason. Even if you see them in preseason, it doesn't mean you should jump to conclusions, because it could be Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler both lead touchdown drives, and then suddenly the Saints have their quarterbacks of the future. Like, that's just how people are going to read into the preseason here, right? Again, proceed with caution, but I do want to see some growth and some progression out of both of these quarterbacks, right? And again, we joke or we say it right now, the trajectory is for Spencer Rattler to be week 1 starter, but we also say footnote, caveat, it could be a matter of time before Tyler Shuck comes in at some point. And that's the uneasy feeling, is that whoever starts the season is not necessarily going to end the season. And so again, I want, if it's Spencer Rattler, I want him to take this job, right? If it's Tyler Shuck, I want him to take this job, and there's no ambiguity. There's no question to it or not. I mean, again, we kind of knew that this was going to be a pain point. And I do like the fact that they're sticking to their guns. They haven't brought in a veteran to this mix. I mean, it's really saying this is what's going to work. We're either going to have our 2nd round quarterback that we drafted this year, or last year's 5th round quarterback who's had some experience to lead this team. And so again, I want to see more. And of course, we all want to see more, but we got to look at some growth. We got to look at context. We got to make sure that these guys are at least getting some of this fundamental stuff. And Kellen Moore said it. He said that he's seen growth and progression out of both of them, but again, for fans to feel like maybe this is more than a 3 or 4 or 5 win team, probably want to see a lot more from this quarterback position.
Yeah. Well, look, I think growing pains is the phrase that is going to encapsulate like what this position group or who these guys are going to be or have to deal with throughout the entirety of the season. Look, I'm going to be maybe a little bit too honest here, but I was going to go quarterback too, because if you look at, I would say there's probably maybe 1 or 2 other places where there's an active quarterback battle going on. Everywhere else, if you ask anybody in the media, anybody on the team, any source in the organization, they're probably going to say that their start has been great in training camp. We cannot say that. We can't say that either of these guys has been great, right? Any of the time that Drew Brees was the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, how's Drew's camp been? Drew's camp has been awesome every single time.
Yeah, right.
Even Derek Carr, the last couple of years, how's Derek been in training camp? He's been great. You cannot say that crap about either of these two guys. So I think because the guys around them are, to me, they're continuing to improve more and more and more. I am concerned about the quarterback position taking off a lot more slowly than the guys around them. Now, maybe we have to run the ball 75% of the time to have some success offensively. As a receiver, I really hope not. But if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. But we got to be honest about this thing. Like, the two of them have been up and down for sure. And I would say they've probably been okay. Not great. And probably not even good if we're being honest. So it's like we're going to have to deal with big time growing pains from these guys. And the fact that these preseason games are coming up fast, like these are going to be the big time learning experiences for them. And really, I think will help solidify what is going to end up ultimately being, I'm not going to say the downfall or the doom of the team, but I do feel like that's the weakest spot on this roster. And we got to start being honest about it. I know we want to talk glowingly about them all the time because they're the quarterback for our team, but I just think that I want to see more. Like, it's not too late, but I want to see more from them. And these preseason games are going to be huge for sure.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go, John.
No, and I'm with you, Lance. I just think that, again, it's what we're going to see. And now, after the training camp practices are in the books, now everybody's going to be able to see it on display, right? You're going to be able to watch this game and everybody's going to come up with their opinion. And it's just one of those where I know preseason, everybody puts a lot of stock into it. I mean, it's a piece of information, right? And some people practice like crap and they can play well. I mean, you talked about it in the other episode, but I think for the quarterbacks, what would make everybody feel better is consistency. Is that if they could practice well and then play well, that's what's missing and lacking for the Saints team on this quarterback position, is that you get some up and down days, you get some inconsistencies. And now if they suddenly go into preseason and nobody looks good, then you're a lot more concerned and be like, all right, they must not have an answer, right? I mean, that's just how it's going to progress here. But I mean, somebody's got to take the job. I feel like it's still Spencer Rattler until Tyler Shuck takes the job. And again, that could happen down the line, but I just don't want to see him bounce between this quarterback to that quarterback to this quarterback, because that just doesn't do anything for your team. Like it changes the complexity of this team. Like I remember when it was like Derek Carr was their quarterback and then things were off and people were excited about Jameis coming in and stuff. And the locker room had a different vibe about Jameis too. And so it's just things like that do affect the team too when you don't have the consistency there.
Yeah. Think about how different a lot of people would feel if Jameis was still on this roster. You know what I mean? Like, if he could be your starter and bring the other two guys along slowly, one of those two is going to win the job as the backup quarterback. Neither of them have to play right away. We know Jameis is capable for sure. He's won a lot of games. He's played a lot of football, but that's obviously not the case. And
right.
I mean, if we're in a reset, let's do it. I mean, like that. I feel like that's the reason why they have not brought in a veteran guy. And you don't really know what you have until you see what these guys can do under this staff with this specific offense. Let the chips fall where they may. I guess let the best man win.
Yeah. And again, this isn't us writing anyone off after just a couple of weeks. I think that there's plenty of time. These are both young quarterbacks, even though some might not say it. These are both young quarterbacks. They're at least early into their NFL careers, and it's gonna be interesting. But again, not writing anyone off. This could still be anyone's job, and we have a couple more weeks to figure that out. Although you'd rather it get figured out sooner rather than later. John, what is there another position group that you wanted to bring up?
I'd say tight end. Like, what is this team going to be like if Juwan Johnson is not playing? Like, they don't have Foster Moreau. They don't have Taysom Hill. I mean, I get it. Jack Stahl's not necessarily a receiving guy. He's more of a blocking guy, which I love. They got to have that in this offense. But the Michael Jacobson, the Trayton Welsh and stuff. And again, it's tough, right? Dallin Holker ended up retiring because of his ankle issues and stuff. And again, it's just a position I feel very unsettled about because Juwan, I mean, again, he's already had the injury scare, I guess, if you will. And again, I hate the thing I hate about the injuries at training camp, and especially like last year's proof positive, is the fact that the injuries you have in camp ended up carrying over. Like these soft tissue injuries, those don't magically go away sometimes. Like they just linger. And when people get hurt that early, sometimes what happens is you compensate for that and then something else flares up. And so that's what the problem is, some of these soft tissue injuries. But like this tight end room, again, I just don't get the greatest vibe. And again, for a young quarterback, they need that tight end, that security blanket. And I'll feel better when Foster gets back on the field. But again, he's not. And at this point, if he doesn't get back on the field anytime soon, I don't know if he's going to start in week 1. And so this is a really underwhelming group. And if they lose somebody like a Juwan Johnson, then it's even worse, right? And so it's just not – you got more blocking threats. You have unknowns. Like, I get it. Michael Jacobson has played a little bit better. He looked good in camp last year. Can he put it together? I don't know. Trayton Welsh is a little bit of an unknown as well. So I just think this position is still got me up kind of like I just don't know. I wish they could have got Fant. I wish they could have been able to make a run at him. I would feel better about that. But they're going to be looking and seeing what happens on the waiver wire. And I think that's something people got to remember. And so are the other 31 teams. This is what the 90-man roster is about in preseason, especially as you get to the game 3. Everybody's looking at everybody because you're auditioning for the next team. So it doesn't necessarily end with this, but there's only so many spots on the team. Maybe there's a gem in there for a tight end that they've been looking at for a while. I don't know, but that's got to be an area they got to figure out.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree because even in practice, I think Michael Jacobson is someone that has looked good, but it's been a long process. You can't really count on Jacobson to come in and provide that. You can't. It's not a sure thing. And then Maliki Motaval is a rookie that's had good moments against block, but he's had a lot of drops. There's been no one that has been like, okay, it's Juwan Johnson, and then this guy, I think it feels good about. Jacobson's probably the closest, but again, if your best guy is a guy who's been in the NFL for like 4 years and hasn't played a game, how do where do you go from that?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Motaval. I didn't want to forget to dismiss him, but I think that's another one. If he's got a good skill set, and again, you can only lead a horse to the water. You can't make him drink. So we'll see.
Yeah, I was gonna go tight end as well. I mean, just because it's the biggest unknown. I heard that Juwan was back at practice today. I don't know exactly to what extent he was practicing today. But I do feel like that position, especially with a team that's going to field young quarterbacks, having a good, solid pass-catching tight end is going to be paramount. I mean, being able to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands early and get it into guys' hands that can catch and run with it. I mean, even if it's an extension of the run game. Your little dinks and dunks to the tight end, those completions help to build the quarterback's confidence. And, just by proximity alone, they're closer to the quarterback. So usually those throws are shorter than the ones that go to the outside. So, definitely an area of concern, and hopefully some of the guys that have been hurt can get back sooner than maybe we were expecting. But for now, I agree with you, John. Like this is not going to be I believe the tight end group that we field week 1 when it comes to the regular season.
Yeah. Well, we're going to come back a group of 3, and whenever we come back from the commercial, we might have a group of 4 and someone ready to tell us a little about what happened at training camp today. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's my favorite time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing, and I'm getting ready for my drafts where I'm going to pick the perfect team. I'm going to go 12 for 12 with my picks. I'm not even going to have to touch the waiver wire. It's all coming down. It's going to be awesome. This year, me and the rest of the Saints squad show are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too. Whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league, it's going to be fun. And this year, I think me and Olave Garden are going to take it all the way. To celebrate 28 years of football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to teach to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl.
Olave Garden. I love it. I love Olave Garden. I don't think I've ever heard that one. Who's this guy?
Oh,
Who let him in here?
Me?
Let him in.
Why
here.
I'm Lance Moore's lookalike.
Well, let's not go that far. No,
Yeah, I'm not that good looking. But I'm out of here. What's up, guys?
Ross is here.
Yep.
Ross is here. Ross, what happened at training camp today? I'm lost. I'm like a chicken running over my head off.
So they throttled things back down today, which is kind of what we expected, right? There's going to be a scrimmage on Friday, and then they're doing their game or scrimmage-like work, I would say, on Friday, and then they've got the game on Sunday. So this was getting back to more like scripted, down and distance, situational stuff. Hi, everybody. Glad to be here. I think that the majority of what we saw today, I think the biggest thing that I can say, Lance, you were right. Juwan was back at practice. I think that's great news for New Orleans. But the other big thing that stood out to me was a total of about, let's say, equal amount of reps between Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler. Tyler Shuck was back with the first team, Spencer Rattler with the second team this time. But Jake Haener only saw 3 team periods, while the other 2 quarterbacks saw 4 team periods. The other 2 quarterbacks threw 10 plus passes. Jake Haener only threw 5 passes. And remember, this was a scripted drill, right? And so, are all scripted drills. And so I think the one thing that we can certainly take away from today's practice that has sort of been building up to this point is that it's officially, I think I would be ready to say, a 2-man race, which is what we expected that it was from the very beginning. But, they continue to give Jake Haener his opportunities. But I think we've effectively seen Jake Haener phased out of the quarterback competition at this point, and it seems very much Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck like. There's a lot of situational stuff down and distance, starting from the 35 and then kind of incrementally progressing. A lot of red zone work, some going into the red zone, all those types of things that you would expect to see, guys, before as a game install, right? As game planning begins to kind of take it. So that's kind of what we saw today. I thought both quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck, had good days. I think Shuck might have had one of his better practices. I think there were a couple of throws that he put to the end zone. They got broken up by Kool-Aid McKinstry and Alante Taylor. They were actually good throws, just better plays by the defense. So like seeing the aggression there, attacking the end zone. Strong day for Kool-Aid McKinstry as well as Alante Taylor, and then a few other standouts as well. But that's kind of the 30,000 foot view of everything that we saw today.
Yeah,
Guys,
I
I
just
think we nailed it. We nailed it with our talks earlier. Kool-Aid did well. We need to see more of the quarterbacks. It's been good. It's been a good show so far, and I think that's.
And I agree, by the way, with all of you that tight end is a position to where you're kind of like, I really want to see, where things go.
Shout out to the DBs. Yeah. So Ross, let's talk a little bit more about the quarterbacks. I think that's what people want to hear. What did they do? Were there any standout plays, standout throws, standout situations?
Yeah, I think we've seen. I think the best Tyler Shuck throws that we've seen happened last week. I don't think we saw anything that was like specifically entertaining today from that aspect. I did chart him with what was signaled by the officials as a passing touchdown. That was in red zone thrills with a quick throw over the middle to Brandon Cooks, which I think is Brandon Cooks' first touchdown. They haven't really overloaded him in training camp so far. They've kind of let him, Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, those guys just kind of move in and get comfortable and be fine because they know what they're going to get from those guys, and those guys know what's going to be asked of them. So it's not like they have to prove much. As for Spencer Rattler, I had 2 touchdowns that were signaled for him, both of which were in red zone situations. One of them was like a play action rollout to Kendre Miller, who I think has a lot to gain over the course of the preseason, by the way. Kendre Miller not getting the opportunity to play in the preseason last year, changed his number, just trying to change everything around him so that he can kind of start anew. And then I had another touchdown for him to Chris Olave. Again, red zone touchdowns, right? So these are like little, equivalent to 3-4 yard passes. But I think the best thing that I saw from the quarterbacks today was a couple of rushing decisions on some read options. Tyler Shuck had a keeper that didn't really go for a big gain, but was a perfect read in terms of had he handed that ball off to the running back, they would have gotten absolutely decimated by Chris Rumpf, I think it was, that was closing in there. And then I charted Spencer Rattler with a rushing touchdown on a 1st and goal on the 10-yard line, just kind of right up the middle on a keeper there too. So I think with both these guys, you're seeing Kellen Moore's intent to utilize them in the rushing game and take advantage of their legs. And so those would be sort of my QB highlights from today.
That's fair. Anything else stand out on offense, or should we go over to the defensive side?
On offense, I think I saw a lot more Cam Akers getting involved in the first team. I thought that sorry, let me rephrase that. I've seen a lot more Cam Akers getting involved in the first team. Today, it felt like it kind of more evened out between him and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So I think both of those guys could be kind of in conversation for potential roster makers. And that makes sense, right? Both of them very good between the tackles, runners. You want to have that complement to Alvin Kamara there. And I think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire in particular also gives you the versatility as a receiver and the ability to get outside. No like surprising rotations or anything, like no rotations on the offensive line or anything like that. Like pretty steady day. Rico Payton, that was his defense, but Rico Payton wasn't there. It's the only absence that wasn't there. That was a surprise, but it was only because of illness. So he's okay. And Devin Neal was present, but working off to the side. Taysom Hill, Foster Moreau, of course, on PUP, but spotted, not dressed out, obviously, at practice. And so I would probably highlight those things, but nothing else super big standing out over on the offensive side outside of the QB run game and then a little bit of the quarterback usage throughout the day.
Yeah, that, I think John and Lance, feel free to jump in and ask any questions you had about practice at all at any point as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing of remember as they transition out to I'm sorry, Lance, I was to say as soon as they transition out there to California, I mean, it's like a little warm-up period, right? Like today's practice isn't going to be anything crazy. I think as you get into tomorrow, you're going to probably start seeing a little bit of who's going to be playing in the preseason game, who's going to be featured. That's the only thing I would add. So I think that's something to really hone in on and pay attention to. Yeah.
The thing that was really interesting was Kellen Moore said that they're effectively kind of tying together the scrimmage on Friday and the game on Sunday from a reps perspective. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how they balance that out in terms of making sure that like maybe the starters do a lot in the scrimmage because they're going to do only a little bit in the preseason game or something like that. And so it's going to be interesting to see kind of how that all balances out. So I'll pay specific attention to that on Friday, but I'm very curious to see what, I mean, for lack of a better phrase, right, what he means by that, if you will. But I'm pretty intrigued by that.
Look, I don't think that's anything that's new. Honestly, I feel like coaches have been doing that since the beginning of time. I mean, maybe not the beginning of time. Obviously, back in the day, everybody was playing every game.
Was that hyperbolic, right? Lance? You didn't actually mean the beginning of time?
No, but I mean, I say that to say, like, sure, it's going to be talked about a little bit more because Kellen Moore said it. And, you know, we're trying to make sure that the guys on every single team are getting a certain amount of reps because you want to make sure that the guys are getting the work, especially the ones that aren't playing in the game. But I feel like that's kind of normal. Now, maybe the actual rep counting thing, that is probably next level with it. But generally, there's been an understanding that, okay, this guy's probably not going to play too much in game one. Let's get him a couple extra reps in practice, and let's probably not kill these younger guys who are probably going to end up playing in the entire game on offense or defense and special teams. It's smart coaching, right? You want to take care of your guys. The training camp and preseason is a long process, and the healthier you are, the better look that you have of your roster. So I applaud him for speaking publicly about it, but I don't think it's any kind of brand new thing that hasn't happened around the NFL or is not happening around the NFL. I do think like it's a more common thing than people think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that second preseason game is probably going to be more of that dress rehearsal. And I think, honestly, that's a better litmus test because they're playing Denver. I mean, it's a Sean Payton coach team. And I think that when you watch that one, I think that's going to be a little bit more when you see some of the quote unquote starters, I guess, if you will. But I'll be paying a lot more attention to that. Not that the first one doesn't matter because it all matters, right? But, you know, third preseason game is the final one. Everybody knows what that tone is and stuff for that particular game and stuff. So it'll be things to pay attention to. I mean, it's football back, right? Like everybody's going to analyze the heck out of every single play that happens and try to hone in on all the crap that does and doesn't happen. This is where we're at.
I think it's also important to mention that this is going to be the Chargers' second preseason game. So while this is week one in the preseason, the Chargers whooped up on the Lions in the Hall of Fame game. So like they could potentially be a ways ahead of where this team currently is. And that's okay. Like like this is not week one. This game doesn't count as far as the standings goes, but they've already been through this process before. They know what to expect. The younger guys that got a ton of reps in that game, because I don't know that they had any starters playing in that Hall of Fame game, will know this second go round more or a little bit better than what it was generally the first go round. So I think that's a little bit, or not a little bit. I think that's a really important piece of context. It's going to, I think it could show come Sunday.
Yeah. I like that. I mean, Ross, anything on defense stand out specifically other than you mentioned Kool-Aid? I mean, I'm always down to talk Kool-Aid.
I mean, red, blue, purple. Like
not even flavors, just red. It's red Kool-Aid.
It's colors. It's colors. Orange is clutch.
Always.
Orange is the only one that's both a color and a flavor at the same time. So man. Kool-Aid McKinstry, was outstanding. He had a pass breakup in the end zone, targeted to Chris Olave. That was really, really solid. It's just one of those plays to where like you're just watching him, the maturation of Kool-Aid McKinstry. Not that he was immature at any point, but how quickly he has sort of turned into this composed corner when the ball's in the air coming his way is so impressive to see. You know, when you go from years-long veterans now in Marshawn Lattimore and Paulson Adebo to a second-year corner, you know, on one side of the football, you kind of wonder sometimes like, okay, what's that adjustment going to be like when it comes to the maturation process, the composure process and everything like that. But he is just so, pun very much intended, cool under pressure in these moments that like you see him go out there and make those plays, just kind of buckles in and gets it done. Alontae Taylor was complaining the other day about not getting a lot of attention and not getting a lot of opportunities. And we kind of told him in the presser, we were like, well, it's kind of a good thing, right? And he's like, no, like I want opportunities. I want the ball coming my way. He had, I counted 2 pass breakups. One of them was in the back corner of the end zone going one way. The other one was in the back corner of the end zone going the other way. And so I just had some really good stuff from Alontae Taylor on the day as well. And so I think both those guys stood out. And then one other guy that hasn't stood out a lot, and we haven't really talked about a ton, but I know John and I were both very high on when he was drafted. Linebacker Jalen Ford, I think, had his best day. And
talked about him.
Yep. And this happened on a day that, like, literally I had released my preseason 53-man roster projection this morning, Thursday morning, and he wasn't on it because he hasn't found a lot of ways to stand out. He caught my eye a couple times during like the full contact moments and things like that during or the live contact moments in the scrimmage day. But today, I think, was his best practice that we've seen. He had a big hit at one point on a ball that was thrown to Kendre Miller in the flat. He had a tackle for a loss on a run by Kendre Miller up the middle. This is all second team reps. And then he got some opportunities in the sort of split field Tyler Shuck reps where he had a pass breakup over the middle of the field. Tyler Shuck was trying to get the ball over to Bub Means in the back of the end zone with Dallas Beanham in coverage. It was towards the back of the end zone, like in the middle of the field. And Jalen Ford was just kind of sitting there in the hole. This is on a first and goal from the 1 yard line. And he just read the pass very quickly, read the eyes of Tyler Shuck, got his hand up and batted the ball away. And so I thought that was really good stuff from Jalen Ford all throughout the day. The depth of that linebacker room is young, but it's got a lot of promise. And I think Jalen Ford is entering that part of the conversation and kind of helping to buoy that a little bit.
I like that. Well, we've talked a lot about the preseason game is just a couple of days away, and we've talked a lot about the quarterback. So let's get into some other players that I think we are getting really excited to see actually play some football. Wrapping it up for us today, Ross is still here. Glad to have him. So you might have thought he might have dipped out. No, he's still here, and he's here with us.
He's on Lance time right now.
Yeah,
that's right.
Is.
Grinding at the 7:45 p.m. I'm loving this.
Yeah, that was fun. A whole month there last year on that. It's crazy.
The game, the Saints play on Sunday. Let's get into some players that we want to watch. Let's start with Lance. Who are you going to be keeping an eye on Sunday?
Well, it's not one single player. It's the entire edge rush group. Like I'm excited to see the edge rushers. Who are the guys that are going to step up and maybe carve out a role for themselves? I don't expect to see too much of Cam, Carl Granderson, or Chase Young, if we even see them at all. So that's going to be a lot of opportunity for younger guys to step up and to make plays. And who are those guys going to be? I mean, we obviously don't know today how many edge rushers they're going to keep, but there's going to be plenty of opportunity in this game for some of those guys to really maybe even solidify a roster spot at this point, because we just don't know what we're going to get. And I feel like this team has been itching for a new dynamic pass rusher. We've had some success as a team trying to get after the quarterback, but consistently being able to cause disruptions as well as get to the quarterback and make sacks instead of the almost yet again. That is going to be paramount for this group. And I think there are some guys up there that have the ability. We just need to see it in the game. And I'm sure everybody in that building is like, okay, these guys make some plays during practice, but we need to see it on film before we can really say, okay, yes, this is a guy that's got a part in our plans for the future. That to me is the thing that I'm looking forward to the most to watching. And I'll actually be in the building on Sunday as well.
Yes, sir.
Holla.
Let's go.
Are you watching? Are you in the press box, or are you going to be down?
No.
Like,
I have
enjoying
tickets.
the game?
I live in San Diego, obviously the former home of the Chargers. So I have a bunch of buddies who have season tickets to the Chargers. So my family and I will be sitting amongst the Chargers season ticket holders, but it's all good, baby. I'll be in there.
That's awesome.
As long as there's no earthquakes that happen. I remember that one. Golly, that's the weirdest thing in the world.
Oh man,
Never want to
John.
experience an earthquake ever.
John, where are you looking at this preseason game?
I mean, there's a couple of players. I mean, you can't just pick one. I'm sorry, and I can't just pick one position group, but a couple of players that I'd have on my radar. Kendre Miller's got to be top player, right? I mean,
Ross, who are you going?
man, I see how that
That's
is.
crazy.
All right, I remember that.
John is gonna punch you in the face the next day season. That was so good. John, please
You're good.
continue. Please continue.
No, you're good. No, I just think like there's position groups. I agree. I get the question, but I just think that there's several players. If I'm going to hone in on, that's just what makes sense to me. Kendre Miller's one. I think so. I think the wide receiver battle, guys like Bub Means, Velus Jones Jr. in that equation. He's more running back too, but Donovan People-Jones, can he make something of himself? I mean, I think for me, it's more the offensive side, right? I'd say the running backs and wide receivers, right? That's the two that I would go with, but I'd say specifically some of those players within it because Bub Means has been really quiet. Now he needs to turn it up in preseason a little bit, right? I think he's got an opportunity in front of him. I mean, Kendre Miller's probably going to tote the rock a good bit. I'd expect Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Cam Akers to get their fair share of carries here as well. And then, I'd say just as a wild card offensive line would be Dylan Radins. I think he's somebody that I want to see a little bit more of. We talked about how good Trevor Penning has been and kind of refreshing there. But again, they need that depth. But I'm sorry, Dylan. I didn't answer your real question, but I had to answer it in my own way.
I'm joking.
The rebel without a
It's
cause.
Fine. It's
I know,
fine.
it's fine.
It's fine. Ross.
I didn't understand the question. No, no, I must spend English. Sorry, senor. No, I must spend Dylan. I don't know. Dylan. Dylan talk.
Ross. If you remember the topic, we're talking about players you want to watch in the preseason game.
Whatever you want.
Where your eye is going to be on Sunday? Yeah,
I'll say real quick. Kendre Miller's like very much at the top of the list for me for sure. But I'll go with Danny Stutzman. Danny Stutzman should see a ton of opportunity because DeMario ain't going out there. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that like Danny Stutzman should see a half of football, whether it's the first half or the second half, whether they go with DeMarco Jackson first or him based on the unofficial, but remember unofficial depth chart. So take it for what you will. But I'm really, really interested to see him under the lights in a game situation, being able to fly around, play freely, kind of be a little bit more in his element than Lance. I'm sure you can attest the practice environment, really gives you. Like, you can go call it for these practice periods. You can run scrimmages, you can do 2-minute drills and all this stuff, but nothing substitutes the actual game. And so I'm really, really interested to see Danny Stutzman in there. And then I'll go for a specialist too. But Dylan, I'm going to leave one of them for you, but I'm going to go with, I am curious to see whoever the field goal kicker is and how they perform. Look, Blake Grupe went 5 of 5 again during today's practice from kicks, extra point to 49. And, you guys know, like in these beach cities, or beach-ish cities in Irvine's case, the wind is super hard to predict and all these other things. And I thought Blake Grupe did a really good job kind of handling all of that. And so if it's him, I just want to see the hot streak continue. He's 36 of 37 so far throughout camp. Can he continue that during the preseason? But I imagine we're going to see Charlie Smith. And so if that is the case, just, how does he kind of come out of the little bit of a rut that he's had here over the course of preseason? I don't think Charlie Smith's going to go anywhere. As we've highlighted on the show before, he's got the international player exemption, so he'll be on the practice squad. He doesn't count against the roster. He doesn't count against the practice squad, all that. So he'll still be, I'm sure, on the roster throughout. But how does he, perform kind of in this situation? Because last year's preseason game against the Arizona Cardinals was his first ever NFL kick, and it was, a 39-yard, 34-yard, I think, field goal for a game winner and everything. And so, just curious to see who that's going to be on the specialist sides.
Yeah. I mean, keep it with the specialist. I am excited to see who's going to be punting and who's going to be doing.
Yeah.
Because we didn't talk about it. We haven't talked about it. But Matthew Hayball got waived, and that is the last person in that room I expected to hear get waived.
Yeah.
Just from being there, I mean, he seemed to be the most consistent. I mean, Burnip has the bigger leg. We're still feeling out what Kai Kroger, like exactly what he did, but he looked solid. That is going to be interesting. But I think where I am going to be mostly watching is the secondary, just because we've talked a lot about the secondary this episode and how they look better than we expected. But this could probably be at least for part of it, could be the best quarterback play that they've seen. And so it's time to see is it real? Is it these young quarterbacks that are underperforming, or is it these guys? Is the secondary really that good? And I guess a specific person I'll be watching is Quincy Riley, just because I think he does have the tools to compete a lot as a rookie. And I think that you have to do it in the preseason to start proving that you can do it in the regular season. So I'm going to be interested to see how he does against whatever Chargers quarterback that he lines up against. Because, I mean, Trey Lance was dicing up folks in their Hall of Fame game. So maybe take him down a peg because, I think that's a nightmare seeing that happen again. Kind of feeling good about the defense, and you come in and Trey Lance destroys you in a preseason game. Can't feel good. So I'm really excited to see how this secondary does against a different offense. I'd say. Yeah.
I think Under the Lights is like, obviously it's a day game, but I say Under the Lights in a stadium against a different group of receivers, against a different quarterback. Like, that's when the ultimate competitor comes out in the real game moments. And I mean, we talked about it just a few minutes ago. Like, you can't replicate that in practice. So it is going to be a big time test for our guys to see kind of where they are today, and see where they need to get to by week 1 for sure.
Yeah. I'm also curious to see. Yeah, I had a brain blast. Offensive line obviously is going to be a big one too, even just from the depth side. John, you highlighted like offensive line from the protection side, but also offensive line from the run game side, right? And the run game as a whole, we haven't gotten to see a ton of throughout training camp so far. Like, a lot of the padded practices went to 2-minute drills, end of half, into the game. The scrimmage was 126 offensive plays, but there were 89 passing attempts. So we haven't seen a ton of the run game. We saw a good bit of it on Thursday. I think we'll see more in the scrimmage and then even more throughout the preseason. So I'm excited to see some of that. And then, do Saints fans outnumber Chargers fans in LA during a preseason game? Curious to see about that too. Because there were a lot of people that I spoke to today that were like, yeah, I'm curious about how many Chargers fans are going to show up for a preseason game, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
I know at least of a couple of Saints fans that are going to be there in place of Chargers fans. So, we got a good early start on that.
Yeah.
I think I am excited to see a lot of the run game, the offensive line, and the run game in particular, because, I mean, they've been figuring out a quarterback battle. They've been running it or throwing it however much they can. And whenever they run it, like Alvin Kamara, he's not playing in this one, but even in practice, it's like Alvin Kamara's like, I don't need to do that. I'm good. He'll practice, but he's not doing everything. I mean, he's earned that. I think no one here will be worried about Alvin Kamara come week 1 of the regular season. But I am going to excited to see a little bit what the run game looks like for Kellen Moore, both just of play design and who is going to be on the field.
Yeah, will be interesting too to see who actually doesn't suit up, right? Because typically, those who don't suit up probably have the best outlook on the roster too. Like, not necessarily that they're locked in starter or anything, but I think that's something just to pay attention to. Like, anybody that may not be dressed out that could potentially maybe surprise us, right? Like, does a Brian Brzee suit up? I don't know. I don't really need to see much of him, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? But if it's guys that they're fighting for depth and stuff like that, that's just something to quickly pay attention to, because that's usually what happens in this first preseason game is there's probably about 20, 30 players that don't dress this game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, after that game, I think it's time for a little bit of housekeeping, because we're going to be trying something out after the game because it's looking a little bit different. You know, we changed up for training camp. We're changing up again. Now our Monday episode for this week is going to be taking place right after the Saints end on Sunday. So as soon as the Saints game ends, within the first little bit out of that, at least some of us will be going live on Sundays. It's going to be a little bit different of a format, but we're excited to try it. It's preseason for us too. So I'm excited to see what it looks like. But just again, our Monday episode is going to be taking place as soon as the game ends on Sunday, or at least within the first couple of minutes after that. And I'm very excited because we'll have immediate analysis and reactions to seeing the Saints play football and what that looks like.
All the hot takes. Let's go.
All the hot takes. I'm gonna be shooting off the cuff. I'm gonna be having just watched the Saints game, and my state of mind. Who knows where I'm gonna be?
I mean, look, hey, it is Kellen Moore's first game. I mean, typically, that's gonna be exciting to see how he does. I mean, not that it's gonna give much, but seeing him operate will be interesting.
Yeah. So again, no set time on Sunday. It'll be right after the game ends. But until then, thank you for listening to the Saints Squad Show. Check out me, Ross, John, and Lance on our socials for the latest. We'll be right back here on Sunday to talk about what just happened during the first preseason game. But until then, I mean, guys, Aiden O'Connell and Drew Lock already have interceptions. I have some preseason football to go watch.